Hey everyone, it is Dr. Dylan Peckus here, and today I want to answer this question, which I get pretty frequently, which is, quite simply, can sleep apnea kill you? It's not a simple yes, otherwise, I would just say that, and this would be a YouTube short. But the fact of the matter is, I want to be able to help you understand in a way where you can see the data and then be able to make the decisions for yourself. Okay. Not only the validity of data and conclusions, but also like, what are you going to do differently when you learn something? Because gathering facts without having an intended action, yes, we could argue it's good for a well rounded education. But when you have a problem and then you learn something about it and then don't do anything about it, really, that's just setting you back. Not even staying in place, but setting you back. Because when you learn something that you could then create some action around, but then don't take that action, then you're building a habit of doing less when if you have sleep apnea, you're even asking this question, you really need to be going all in with your effort. And I get it, you're tired, but the fact of the matter is, you need to be able to face this issue, face the truth about it, so you can really get to the other side. Okay? But otherwise, you could just go through and try to be comfortable as you get through things and put up with pushing and all that, and just accept it's old age or whatever, and try to convince yourself, okay, just got to push through. Or you can recognize that's not how you have to live. You can absolutely get through a whole day, no naps, no dips, no crashes, none of that needed. You can have the energy, whether it's work, workouts, family, hikes, whatever you should be able to do. That's what your body is designed to do. But when you're not sleeping right, like we'll talk about, it has some serious consequences on your body. So let's dive into what that is. And one of the reasons I want to help you understand the mechanism, because I could just spit out a bunch of stats and we'd be done here. But the more you understand the mechanism of when you're understanding, okay, this is how the damage happens, how can I fundamentally change that? Okay, so let's talk about that. The main way in which sleep apnea is killing you is because of chronic intermittent. And so, one of the biggest ways that sleep apnea kills you, and yes, it does, okay? Anyways, our bodies are dying every day and they are supposed to rebuild itself at night. But here's the thing when you have chronic intermittent hypoxia, this is what causes nearly all the damage from sleep apnea. What this is, as the scientific name would suggest, is you have a long standing, long duration swings in hypoxia. Okay, because I know the two words chronic and intermittent don't really match up very well, but they go together in this sense. Because think about the course of a night, let's say 8 hours. These big swings in oxygen, intermittent hypoxia. Okay, you can think of intermittent as the swings, hypoxia is the swings in oxygen. It's chronic because it happens over 8 hours a night, and then sleep apnea isn't a Tuesday night thing, and then you skip it Wednesday, and then it's back Thursday. It's every night. Okay, and yes, some nights may be worse or better than others. There's going to be variation, but it's going on for weeks, months, and years. Heck, if you've gotten a sleep apnea diagnosis today, you likely have been dealing with this problem for months, if not years. And what this is these big swings in oxygen. Now, our bodies can handle these little swings in oxygen, okay? Up and down, okay? But at night, what happens is more like this. We go up and then we'll come crashing down. And some of you may measure your oxygen levels at night, and this is probably what you see, okay? Now, this is a bit exaggerated and obviously highly, highly artistic. But the point being, this big swing in oxygen. Because our body is something that it can maintain high or low levels, but it's the change. It's like grabbing your cells and like shaking them. That's what's happening. And these big swings in oxygen, they cause damage in your cells. That leads to inflammation, and then that will also lead to your nervous system going into this fight or flight state that then raises your blood pressure. And this is just the beginning. Because when you have inflammation in your cells, that is the gateway to so many different diseases. Okay, and I'll talk about specifically different diseases as the research has shown as the biggest drivers of mortality with sleep apnea. Okay, now this chronic intermittent hypoxia, the reason I bring it up, I mean, honestly, I didn't want to bring it up. It's just such a long phrase, but it's also the key to you fixing this. Hold on to that thought. We'll circle back around to that. Okay. So all this inflammation, increasing blood pressure, damage to your cells, and many other things, poor sleep quality as well, because when this is going on, you stop breathing, it may not wake you up. Because when I talk to people on our free evaluation session, a lot of times that will come up. I wake up in the middle of the night like that. Some people say that, some people don't. But guess what? Every single time you have a chronic intermittent hypoxic night, swings of oxygen up and down, guess what? Even though you don't wake up consciously, your body is going from deep stages of sleep to lighter stages of sleep. And that's a huge problem. Because if you don't sleep, your body cannot repair itself. And there's damage happening from you not breathing. There's damage happening from the aging process. And if you have other conditions, that damage is not getting undone. So I know sometimes people will say, oh, I have sleep apnea, I don't sleep well, but other than that, I'm pretty healthy. That is like this room being on fire. And me saying, other than that, this is a pretty nice place. It's something we have to tell ourselves just to get through a day. But honestly, if this is going on, this is a major, major deal. And maybe you knew that at an intellectual level, but like, seriously, this is something that if you're not sleeping well, if you're having these issues with your breathing and choking your cells out of oxygen, it is going to lead to early mortality. Let's talk about that next. So when we actually look at the research, because one thing, like when we go to the doctor, you will get a similar description. It'll be very short because you got like what, 10 minutes in there, and they'll be like, well, you have sleep apnea, sorry to hear that, use a CPAP or you're going to die of a heart attack. Which, there's some truth to that, of course, but also like we're missing a lot of the bigger moving pieces here. Okay, so when we look at the research literature here, let me pull up this here study. Okay, so this is a study. We won't get like super in depth to it, but this is where they followed a bunch of people, 400 people with sleep apnea, and then tracked their deaths. Now, before all of my armchair PhD researchers come out and say, and say the thing, I'm just going to really insult you here, and say the thing that any 8th grader looking at a piece of paper could say, saying that there's not enough people in the study. Guess what? How many people do you need to see get lung cancer from smoking cigarettes to know it's bad? How many people do you need to see them drive a car off a cliff to say, hey, we need an RCT, I need 60,000 people in this trial, I'm not sure? How many? Because unless you're someone who knows what the term statistical power even means and knows how to calculate it, never, 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 never be an armchair researcher. Because if you don't know statistics, then you might as well just be reporting from the tabloids. Okay? Now, I say that because there are people who know statistics very well, myself, and I will stand on that hill and die, which is why I want to be able to give you the data and not just throw you down a hill of, well, we needed further research. We just need, I'm not sure. I saw someone drive off a cliff with a car, but I'm still not sure if that's a bad idea. Were they double blind? Did that same person drive a car up a cliff? So you can tell what my pet peeves are, can't you? Because when, like, the reason this is even published in an article, okay, the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine, which is one of the major journals about sleep medicine and sleep apnea. There are people who have degrees, PhDs, that are analyzing the data and the statistics and saying, this is fine. If there were not enough people and there was not enough statistical power, it wouldn't even be published. So I say that as a way to almost take away the blankie of like, well, this needed 40,000 people. Okay, so we don't need to get into confidence intervals and what the p-value were and all of that. Just quite simply, and we can look at this paragraph. Will this mean anything to anyone? I don't know. But point being is if you do go to this, go all the way down, look at the conclusion and kind of miss out on things. The bottom line of this is that you have sleep apnea and it's problematic for you. Moderate, severe, simplest way to say it. Guess what, my friend? You have a 4 times higher mortality rate. And again, I know that may not mean something to you unless you know what odd ratios are and again, know quite a bit about statistics. But if you calculate that into some meaningful numbers, that means if you are someone who is similar to this cohort of people, around 45 to 60 years old, sleep apnea can remove about 15 to 20 years off of your lifespan. Through heart attacks and strokes. Those are typically the primary endpoints. Okay. Now, if we look outside of this, and we won't go to all those different studies, we're looking at car crashes, dementia, that's a later one, and probably the most direct and proximate. I mean, I already mentioned the car crashes, but also suffocating in your sleep at night. Now, there's not an in-depth study on the nightly suffocations. I would assume that most of them happen in hospitals in very sick people, but I can't say it doesn't happen to people who just think they're going to wake up the next morning and don't. I just don't know. Okay, I looked, but I can't honestly look you in the face and say so. Okay. So, this is something that, when we look at this, it's not to be taken lightly. Okay? Oh, I'm just a little tired. Oh, I wake up and just kind of gasp for air. I've told myself the same crap. Okay? As a way to, like, protect myself and, like, assure myself it's okay during the day. The fact of the matter is, you have sleep apnea. And, I mean, if you're not using a CPAP, you're definitely in this territory, right? Whether it just doesn't work for you or makes things worse, or if you're using one, but like you don't feel the benefit. Well, guess what? If you're not feeling the benefit of it, you're not having good sleep quality. It's very likely that you're still having, I mean, it's incredibly likely, I'm going to say it's happening, that you're still breathing poorly at night. That's what happens to your body. All right? That's just one study I wanted to show you here. Then another one is, and these people looked at something slightly differently. Okay, and this one actually has an approachable graph. and even more statistical power. Wow, look at that. But the thing here is also addressing when people are like, well, I get by on a few hours, okay? Because the other one was a little bit more black and white, okay? Well, actually, it had different scales. It was no sleep apnea, mild, and then moderate and severe, okay? This study is looking at the hours of sleep in people with sleep apnea and how that impacted how long they lived, okay? Here is something that, everybody loves talking about at the dinner table. I know, like me and my family, we're always talking about Kaplan-Meier survival curves. Okay? If there's any statistical nerd watching this and just give me a sign of life in the comments, now is your time for that. So, what this is showing us, okay, is that the lines, I mean, I don't think you can see my mouse here, but the lines that are closer to the top of this diagram is basically more hours of sleep. The very top line is 7 hours or more of sleep. Bottom line, less than 5. Okay, so the fewer hours of sleep you're getting, the sooner you're dying. Okay, because again, you're not repairing. Damage is running amok in your system. It's ongoing. Not getting anywhere. Okay. So again, if you have it and if you're sleeping fewer hours, it just all piles up on the wrong side for you. And that's all because of our friend, chronic intermittent hypoxia. Now, like I said, we're coming back. Okay, 'cause I don't just want to say, hey, this is really bad without giving you a sense of like, okay, well, what do we do about it? Hope you're ready for this. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay. Delete chronic, delete intermittent. And I'm going to subject you to my awful handwriting. Ooh. Come on. Adaptive. It should say adaptive. As a fun fact, did you know that poor handwriting correlates with intelligence? And did you know people who look up studies to justify ways and reasons why they have poor handwriting is correlated with just being silly? Because I looked it up. I was almost held back in fourth grade for my handwriting. Anyway, adaptive. Adaptive hypoxia. This is the way out. Okay, now there's many ways out. I don't want to oversimplify it. But adaptive hypoxia helps your body be more resilient against chronic intermittent hypoxia. It does this very beautifully. Okay, because hypoxia is a signal to your cell, and if it leads to things falling apart, it's because the signal was too strong, just like if you worked out too long. But adaptive hypoxia is giving your body just enough hypoxia to help strengthen yourself against that cellular stress. Okay? So, what this looks like, adaptive hypoxia. This is why one of the linchpins of when we're working with people is breath work of where you're having breath holds. Okay? Now, I want to be very, very clear. A lot of red tape around this. Breath holds should always be done in a very safe location. In a chair, not while driving, not near a body of water, stationary. Okay? And even better, if you can have someone near you to assure your safety, that's even best. And of course, never push your limits to the extreme. Be safe, be sensible. Your health is not in anyone else's hands except yours. Okay? It's empowering, right? Because then you can change it. So, how do you change it with adaptive hypoxia? Well, again, that's what a lot of the breath work does. So, for instance, let's talk about box breathing. Everyone knows box breathing. And if you don't, now's your time to shine. So box breathing is when, oh, this kind of looks weird when I have that hanging hypoxic cliff there. Box breathing, actually just draw a box. Wow, a box. Okay, we'll go with it. So box breathing is when you have like a 5 count inhale, 5 count pause, right? 5 count exhale. I'll put a E here. Okay, there's that. And then another 5 count pause. That's what that is. Okay, and if you notice, there's many times where we're not taking in oxygen. Because it's 5, 5, 5. That's 20 total. Keep up with me now. Only 5 of that's inhaling, bringing oxygen in. The other 15 seconds, you're not. So when this happens, hypoxia or oxygen levels will go lower. And you do it in a safe, controlled fashion that actually will be adaptive hypoxia. And this will help strengthen your cells. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is going to completely offset all the damage and you can just like live the vida loca at night and be snoring and choking yourself out and be like, I did my box breathing. It doesn't count. No, 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 no. It will start to undo this, okay? Yes, you need to do this consistently over time and, have appropriate guidance in, hypoxia training, if you will, and in a safe fashion too. But also, not only does it help with hypoxia resiliency or adaptive hypoxia, but also when you train your breathing in this fashion, it takes your breathing, which is set to a little bit too fast at night, okay, and it makes it slower. Why is that important? Well, you see, sleep apnea happens, you have some narrowing in your airway, and guess what? Now it's like breathing through a straw. When you breathe through a straw, if I made you breathe through a straw and run around the block, are you going to breathe a lot harder or the same? You're going to breathe a lot harder because you have a narrow airway. But then the real problem is that faster breathing now becomes ingrained as a neural pathway or like a mind-body connection muscle reflex, however you want to think about it, and you're breathing faster all the time. And that's going to effectively carry over into the night, pull your tongue back, close off your airway many more times than it should. So you could undo the anatomy, you could get surgery and all. You can absolutely do that. Does it work for everybody? Absolutely not. Okay, nothing really does work for everyone. But you would think by slicing out the root problem that a lot more people would be a lot more successful and it would just be kind of a closed case with that. But it's not. A big part of that is because even when you remove or widen the anatomy, you still have this faster breathing problem. And as a result, pulling the tongue back, still have apneas, chronic intermittent hypoxia, and then your health still collapsing. So that's why being able to have a way to train adaptive hypoxia so critically important. Okay, obviously, how that is best done depends on you, your needs, and having a level of personalization. That's why I gave a lot of red tape around that. Now, box breathing is a pretty safe start, I would say, for probably 80% of people who are just starting out. Beyond that, yeah, you'll need more guidance and personalization and all of that. And, that's something I would obviously really love to do for you. But the thing is, one, we're not at that time point yet. And two, I just don't really know a whole lot about each and individual need you may have. Because it's not just the breathing. Also, lifestyle changes are also going to impact your breathing as well. So we need to have a very clear handle on all of that. But to even make sure any of that's going to make sense for you, we would need to discover and understand, like, okay, is this something that can be fixed? And that's why we offer our free evaluation sessions. Okay, that's where we, just connect on the phone, 45 minutes, talk about what's going on with you, your health, what are your goals, and if we can help you get there, then I'll walk you through all those details. But if not, I will, I'll just tell you, hey, I don't think this is our cup of tea, I'm not confident, and refer you to something or someone else that's going to be better suited towards your needs and your goals. So that's something you're interested in, then go ahead and go to ochnow.com/talk. And once you're there, there's an intake form that you fill out. And then once you complete that, you'll go to the calendar, pick a time and day, and then you're all good to go. So thanks so much for watching. Go ahead and go to ochnow.com/talk and fill out your form, pick your time and date, and then I look forward to talking to you soon. All right, talk soon.